All right, at this time, you are being joined by Medic One Foundation volunteers. Jan, would you come up here too? So we are going to be trained real time in CPR, and we'll walk you through it, but we're gonna start with a training video, and before we do, Jan, I'm putting her on the spot because I didn't warn her. Can you just give like just a really top level on who is at the tables with our Rotarians?
You have volunteers from the Medic One Foundation. You have the cadets from the Seattle Fire Department. You have active personnel from the fire department and board members from the Medic One Foundation as well. So they're all here to teach you, and let's go. Let's learn CPR.
Cue the video.
Yes, we got help on the way.
6 minutes can mean the
There we
critical
are.
difference
We need
between
sound.
life and death in a medical emergency. Without help, the chances for survival decrease rapidly as the seconds tick away. You can help save lives by learning hands-only CPR. If you witness an adult suddenly collapse, check for a response. If there is no response, call 911. Bare the chest and place your hands on the center of the chest. Push down 2 inches on the chest, hard and fast, at least 100 compressions per minute. Continue until help arrives. Citizen CPR is a critical link in saving lives. Kayla Burt knows this firsthand.
Dispatcher Dan Stillwell told my teammates what to do after I suffered cardiac arrest. Together, they saved my life.
Put the heel of their hand right in the center of her chest, put the other hand on top of it, and press down. Here. Okay, so you can hang up. Good job.
Okay, so we're gonna have the volunteers help us, and there's going to be okay, Staying Alive, you guys are flashing back to disco, because that is the rhythm that will help set the pace, and you can be singing that in your head when you're actually doing CPR, so we're gonna set the mood. And then each person at the table is gonna have an opportunity to do CPR on the little Annie that is at each table. And Lisa's gonna help basically time, each person's gonna have a chance at it, and she's gonna call when the time is ready for you guys to make the switch. So, go.
All right, so now the volunteers are each gonna take a minute to show you how to do CPR. So if you wanna gather around your volunteer at your table, requires you to get up and move around.
We would like to give a round of applause for our volunteers. Thank you, Medic One. Thank you, Seattle Fire Department. We really appreciate you being here. All right, so the next technique that we would like to talk about is important as a first responder, and especially places where you are sharing food and good conversation, like Seattle 4 Rotary. And that is what to do if you encounter someone who is choking, or if you are choking yourself. And so can I get a raise of hand of who of you have been trained in the Heimlich maneuver at some point in time during your life? Wonderful. So we're gonna take about 5 minutes and refresh that so it is at the top of your brain, and so you can feel really clear and confident should you encounter that situation in the future. So we're gonna set the stage with a common example. So Lisa and I are sitting at the Rotary table doing our table topic. And that is when I noticed that Lisa has started to cough on some food. So she is still coughing forcefully, and I ask her if she's okay, and she's like, yeah, she can kind of talk. So if she is still talking and coughing forcefully, then I know her airway is still open. And so in this situation, the best thing to do is encourage them to keep coughing and not to let them run off into the bathroom by themselves. However, this is the moment when you want to be looking for some warning signs and to begin to think about what you might do if, in fact, she stops coughing, which is a sign that she can no longer breathe. If she cannot talk, if she cannot cough forcefully, and if she's giving the universal sign of choking, which is grabbing at her throat. This is the moment when you know you're going to need to intervene. So in this moment, you would definitely want to get someone to call 911. In this case, I might also send someone over to Kathy Gibson to see if she needs CPR as she watches her VP of programs expire on stage. And then you also want to reassure the victim that you are there to help them and let them know what you're going to do. So, Lisa, I'm going to perform the Heimlich maneuver on you. Okay, so we're going to take a brief break. We're going to show you a video. So if you can cue the video, and you're going to see two techniques that are recommended by the Red Cross.
Somebody's choking. First, I'm going to ask them, are you choking? And if I'm not, she can't speak to me, she can't make any sounds, that means I've got to do something. I've got to get it out. Now, the technique I'm going to show you here is called abdominal thrust. You probably know it as the Heimlich maneuver. So what I'm doing is I'm getting behind her, I'm finding her hips, and I'm coming, that's my marker where my hands are going to go, and I come right across from her hips to right here with a fist. I'm around her belly button, maybe a little bit above it. Other hand is on top of this fist, and now I'm ready to pull in and up, which we'll show you. I'm going to move you this way. Once I'm here, this is the part we can't practice, I'd start going in and up. It's kind of a scoop motion. What I'm trying to do is get into her belly and then take all the air that's in here and bring it up, right up through the trachea to dislodge the object. This is very effective. It's really common within just 1 or 2 or 3 of these thrusts, the object will come flying right out. So in this technique, this is called a backflow. It's taught by the American Red Cross and a lot of other countries. This is their primary response to a conscious person choking. So in this one, what I'm going to do, it's a blow with my heel. I'm going to move you here, right here between her shoulder blades. It's up high. The object is right on the other side of my hand. So I'm going to do a hard focused blow to get it out. It's basically, if this was Gulia's back, right here. Now, an important safety thing, I've got to have control of her, because if I come in here and really hit hard, she could fall down. So what I'm going to do is get right here, and I'm going to get control of her. I'm going under her arm, grabbing her shoulder, and I'm going to lean her over to use a little bit of gravity to help get the object out and hit right here, hard. And it can jar it loose, and often they'll just spit it off or cough it out. Occasionally even comes flying out, but it's very effective. So the thing to remember is both techniques work, the abdominal thrust and the back blows. So my recommendation is just jump in and do the one that's going to work for you. With both these techniques, it's really worth taking a class so you have an instructor in a classroom show you how to do them, but this will give you a basic idea of what to do.
On stage. So we are going to start and do a live demonstration, and what I'd like to have you guys all do is actually stand up, and I'm going to have you actually find the placement for the Heimlich maneuver on yourself as I show the technique with Lisa. And the key is you never actually want to practice this on someone who is not choking. All right, thanks, Sue. Okay, so again, Lisa is choking. Lisa, I'm going to give you the Heimlich maneuver. So I want you to feel over from your hips into the midline. And you'll see it's below your ribs, but a little above your belly button. And I'm making a fist with one hand, and I'm covering it with my other hand. And the idea is you want to squeeze both the air in, but also up. So you're making a J-like motion with your hand. So try this on yourself, just slightly. And so in this case, for me, it's sort of like this. And the key is really to do this until she has a clear airway. If it's not working, you could also try back blows, and the key with this technique is that you need to have gravity help you. So if I am reaching across, I'm going to lean Lisa over, and you want gravity to help get that thing out as you give these blows in between the shoulder blades. So I would say the most important thing is to use a technique that you are comfortable with. And notably, if you are by yourself, you can use this technique on yourself. You can also, if you're by yourself, use your chair. So you can imagine that you could give pretty forceful blows to your abdomen if you were by yourself. So beyond this, and to link it back to the beginning of the program, you would keep doing this until either Lisa has a clear airway, or if she becomes unconscious, at which point in time it's important to lay her down and then begin CPR. And ideally, Medic 1 is on the way at that point in time. So that is our demonstration on the Heimlich maneuver. And now we are really lucky to have someone who can truly speak to, oh yes, please be seated, who can really speak to how to have that clarity of mind in an emergency situation. And her name is Kathy, and she's going to be interviewed by Mark Wright about what that takes to save a life in that situation.
Carla, thank you. So this is Kathy Butler. The reason Kathy is here today is that she's actually saved a life. She was a bystander one day and came upon a scene and ended up saving someone's life. So Kathy, it's good to have you here.
Thank you.
Take us back to the day. What happened?
Well, it was Valentine's Day, about 9 years ago, I believe. I had luckily gotten the day off of work. I was treating myself to a trip to Starbucks. I came across an accident on the road. There were 3 cars involved. I said, is everyone all right? And someone said, well, somebody might be having a seizure, but otherwise we're good. So I thought I can do seizure. So I got out of the car, I went over and saw the woman in the car was not having a seizure, but she was turning blue. She still had a few breaths, but then she stopped and she got very gray.
So we should say that you have training as a nurse.
I do.
What you did that day, any of us could have done, correct?
That's correct. The hardest part is just starting.
Sounds like, and we all, thinking back to college psychology class, the more people around when you need help in an emergency, the less likely you are to be helped by people. You took charge that day, didn't you?
Well, I did. I'm kind of bossy. I was worried partially about myself because I was bent over with my head in the car with my backside sticking out. Cars were going by on both sides. So I stood up and said, you stop those cars. And Mike, the mailman, happened along, and he said, do you need help? I said, yes. And he said, well, she's been in an accident. We can't get her out of the car. And I said, we have to because she's not breathing. So we carried her across the street and started CPR.
You described earlier when we were talking, you said that the color went out and the victim almost became black.
Right.
Ashen colored.
Very ashen.
What was going through your mind at that point? Were you sort of on autopilot?
Well, I'd never done CPR before on a real person before. There were 2 of us, and it was kind of like, well, Mike's the strong guy, so he should do the compressions, but my jeans were too tight. I knew I'd never get my mouth down on hers, so I said, so you are doing the mouth-to-mouth, and I'm doing the compressions. I know how. So we did.
And as you started CPR, something happened.
Yes, not right away, but every now and then she would get a little bit pink, and we would just smile at each other like, yes, we did it, and then she would get gray again. So we kept going until it seemed like forever, until the fire department came and took over. So.
At that point, they come in. I'm guessing they used a defibrillator to get her heart going again?
Right, they took her. The thing that they did that I didn't like was she had the most beautiful coat on I've ever seen in my life. And they got out their scissors and they chopped it up. So Mike and I had done a wonderful job not hurting the coat, but I realized that we didn't have a defibrillator. So I knew that they needed to do that. But it was sad because it was very lovely.
So you left. I'm guessing you wondered what happened with the patient after that.
Well, I knew that there were a lot of people working on her, but I did go ahead and I went to Starbucks and I got my coffee. At her accident, there were actually several people injured. There was a pregnant lady who was due that week, and there was a lady with a bad neck. So we kind of sorted them out to the other people who were around. I went to get coffee and went home.
Did you get a chance to eventually meet the woman whose life you saved?
I did, and it has been the most wonderful experience. I mean, it was the most wonderful thing I've ever done. You know, I was so excited. And then eventually, the police called me and said, would you mind meeting with her? And I said, no, that would be fine, but I didn't hear anything. And then I ran into a friend who was who knows her, and I knew her from my past. And I was telling her about this, and she said, oh, I know who that was. And she did.
So we should say at this point that our meeting today would not be possible without you. Our president would not be here except for you.
She's one of my favorite people. Every February in my home, I hang the Dolce & Gabbana overcoat I was wearing on my way to Rotary, February 14th, 2007. The coat that always made me feel so together. The coat that was shred, like Kathy said, in seconds, so the Medic 1 paramedics could place the external defibrillators on my chest. That coat reminds me how quickly the things we think are powerful can go away and make room for the things that are truly powerful. The nurse you just met stopped on her way to Starbucks and saved my life. Joe James and Chief Fickery began a partnership in our club 45 years ago that has saved 800,000 lives. Our interconnection is vital. Our instincts and choices change one another's lives. I was warned that the emotions around this experience would dim as years passed. I am so glad they haven't. The swell of gratitude faithfully returns. Rotarians are people who serve, committed to do our part. It is fitting we are trained to respond when the unexpected happens. When opportunity meets preparedness, and we find the courage to say yes, we imprint lives. Mine is testament. Thank you for standing ready to pay this legacy forward.